Morning, friends. Today we will discuss Thomas Dickinson's on the knocking at the gate in Macbeth, which is there in your criticism paper. So before directly, moving on to the essay, we will have some shorter introduction. As all of you know, Thomas Dickinson is a romantic writer. Obviously his time period is 1785 to 1859. He was very much active in that romantic tradition of writing, where you have a sense of questioning the traditional authority. Romanticism is all about questioning not all about, but you could generally, there is one main undercurrent of romanticism it is questioning the traditional authority and liberating a lot of things, right? A sense of democracy is there, even though whenever you are examining these writers, they are coming from a well-to-do family. That kind of an aristocratic tradition is there. Only aristocratic people can imagine like a romantist. Those kinds of contradictory notions would be there, but generally it's a in the very definition of poetry by Wordsworth, where he defines poetry as it is the thoughts and emotions and feeling in terms of recollected in tranquility, right? So from the classical point and from the classical perspective, where everything is dominated by the scholastic authorities, now we have a liberation in some sense, even though it is a seemingly liberation. That's altogether a different question. You can have your own inquiries, but I don't want to reflect on that in some details. I just simply want to state that. And now he's a romantic essayist and writer. Then his time period he's mainly known for his Confession of an English Opium Eater. That is a well-known essay it's a kind of biographic stuff, autobiographic stuff, where he's talking about his experience. Most of these scholars are of the opinion that by writing this work in 1821, he introduced something called this addiction literature in the West. Okay, so you will find some similarities with Coleridge as well. Their opium and stuff like that. There is some kind of a similarity, but his writings are very much philosophical in some sense. He is trying to have, even in this essay, this on knocking at the gate in Macbeth, there also he is trying to reflect on the larger philosophy, right? Means we will read the essay, but before that, what are his main publications? Confession of English Opium Eater is there, which is published in London Magazine, and along with that, on knocking at the gate in Macbeth in 1823, and Valdemar and On Murder, considered as one of the fine arts. Okay, that's also an interesting one in this tradition. And there are many other writing, The Logic of Political Economy, The Revolt of Tatars, and The English Mail Coach, Autobiographical Sketch. Okay, so today we will try to read this essay, on the knocking at the gate in Macbeth. But we will do that in two classes, I guess. Today we will try to finish the half, and then the second class, the next class, we will try to do the remaining part. So this essay, you can download it from internet, and even I have downloaded one copy. That is, first I'll try to read and then explain. From my boyish days, if I'm reading it, then it will take a lot of time, right? You can read it. So here he says that from my childhood itself, I was very much I was very much concerned about one part in Macbeth, where there is this knocking at the gate, that is happening soon after the murder of King Duncan by Macbeth and his wife, okay, then there is a knocking sound. That knocking sound, generally speaking, it's not an interesting thing. It's simply, but for De Quincey, that created some kind of impression in his mind. So he's talking about that. So in my childhood days itself, I was very much preoccupied with this episode of knocking. But never I couldn't analyze it. I thought about it in some details, but I couldn't get through some conclusions. So I endeavored with my understanding to comprehend this for many years. I never could see why its sound produced such an effect. Means I was trying to make a sense out of this knocking, but I couldn't make it for long days, when even I don't know why it is happening to me. That is he's as an introduction he says. Now in the second paragraph, what he's talking about, let's see. Now in the second paragraph, he's giving some kind of an introduction to his argument in the larger essay. So he says, human mind is composed of different faculties, like understanding is one among them, seeing is one among them, hearing is one among them. Sometimes we certain faculties overrule other faculties. For example, sometimes understanding undermine seeing. So he's giving an example of a building, a picture of a building, where whenever you see in a picture, what you see is one dimensional thing, right? But we are using certain effect to make it two dimensional or three dimensional. But according to De Quincey, this whatever we see is in a paper, it is obviously one dimensional thing. So here what we see is a one dimensional thing, but what we make out, what our understanding try to comprehend is entirely different thing. Okay, so in our understanding it's a building with three-dimensional building, but in our actual sensory experience it is a one-dimensional thing. So here we have a contradiction between understanding and our sensory, our vision. Our understanding overrule this idea of vision, this concept of vision we have. Okay, so he's, by giving that an introduction, he says there are lot of other instances we can elaborate where understanding or one faculty of mind is overruled by another faculty of the mind. Okay, so now he is talking about, after that, giving that example, he is comparing it with Macbeth. Okay, his experience with Macbeth. So once he watched this Macbeth, this knocking sound after the murder of King Duncan and the character in Macbeth, so there is a knocking sound is heard. So once after that he happened to see this drama of there is a now he is trying to draw some comparison with another kind of murder, like for example, he is discussing this Mr. Williams Radcliffe Highway murder. That is a very a well-known case in the history of British law and all literature as well, where this cold-blooded murder of lot of people happens on the Radcliffe Highway. So here, whenever once he was talking to a guy, some guy who is talking about this murder, he is telling De Quincey that there has been absolutely nothing doing since his time, or nothing that worth speaking of. Okay. So it is, even I am using in the computer. So here it is. Okay, there is there is nothing absolutely there has been absolutely nothing doing since it, time for nothing that is worth speaking with the genius of Mr. Williams, who has, created this drama of, or this, written this play of Radcliffe Highway Murder. So in that Radcliffe Highway Murder also, after killing, after some characters got killed, there is this knocking sound. So he's trying to draw some comparison. In Macbeth there is this knocking sound. In this Radcliffe Highway there is also this knocking sound. That knocking in the knocking sound in Radcliffe Highway, that struck the mind of some of the audience. Okay, so now he feel inside that, deep inside his mind, he feel that whatever he had some preoccupation with this murder thing, this knocking thing in Macbeth, yeah, it has some valid point, it has some beauty. He cannot completely overrule his feeling there. There is something important he has to explore philosophically, right? That is what he feels, right? Then after quotings, from the poor beetle that we tread on, that's a quotation. We are killing the simple creature of this, earth. Okay, means that is a simile he used in King Lear. So here what he says, that generally what people are interested is the murderer. Okay. He throws some interest in the murder. Our sympathy must be with him, but means we are, generally we are giving attention to the murdered, but we have to give some attention to the murderer. Okay, and are made to understand them, not sympathy of pity or approbation. In the murdered person, all the strife of thought, all the flex and reflex of passion and the purpose are crushed by one overwhelming panic. The fear of instant death smites him with its petrific maze. But in the murderer, such a murderer as poet will condescend to, there must be raging some great storm of passion, jealousy, ambition, vengeance, hatred, which will create hell within him. Into this hell we are to look. Yeah, means we are not supposed to look into that sympathy, but we have to look into the murderer. What kind of a emotional flux is being created in his mind? So what is happening in his mind? So that is why Dickens's other essays also, murder considered as a fine arts, or okay, so stuff like that. He is talking about this philosophy, right? So he says that there is some kind of an artistic appeal to this episode. Why? Because there is something hidden, psychologically something hidden in this direction. So from talking about a murdered person, the sympathy for that murdered person, we have to have some sympathy towards this murderer who has done this cold-blooded murder. Why? What is happening inside mind? That has to be explored. Okay, so he's trying to explore this point in some details in the coming parts of the essay. I think now the remaining part we will do tomorrow. So before we are winding up, I'll just try to underline the points we have discussed. The first thing is Thomas de Quincey, and he's a romantic writer, and he has written a lot of things on this murder, this confession literature, okay, confession of an English opium eater, and he is coming in the tradition of this addiction literature. Sometimes he is the one who has inaugurated this addiction literature in the West. And the second point, he is saying that this knocking incident has created some kind of an appeal in his mind from the very beginning of his life, and now he is trying to grapple, now he is trying to grapple with this question in a more philosophical way. So that's why he is trying to have some comparison. He gives an introduction like that, human being have, they have different faculties. Sometimes some faculties overrule the other faculty. For example, the example he has given here is that of a picture of a building, where in the picture we don't see a multi-dimensional stuff, but at the same time our understanding, every day we see building. That's why once we see the picture, we just imagine that's a building, right? So there is a contradiction between our understanding and our sensory, our vision, right? So he's talking about that. And then he sees some kind of comparison between this Radcliffe Highway, Mr. Williams Radcliffe Highway murder case, and Shakespeare's the Macbeth, okay, the murder in the Macbeth, where King Duncan has been murdered by Macbeth and his wife. So there in this episode is also there is a knocking sound. So knocking sound is it's not something very rare. It is a common thing that appeals, that attracts people. So as this guy whom Radcliffe, whom Quincey was talking, he's also got interested in that episode because of this knocking thing. And now he's trying to say that this actually suggests that we have to shift our attention from the murder, from the murdered person, from the person who has been killed, to the murderer, to the one who commits crime, his internal flex of emotions, the hell within him, okay, that we have to pay attention. So remaining part we will discuss in the coming classes, because I am not recording this in a one stretch, because it is easy for you to listen in parts. Okay, just try to listen to this, and if you have any doubts you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. Okay.